Hey guys, what up? Good Monday. How are you? It's good to see you again. I, of course, am Bill Sylvie, aka the Dungeon Delver, the purveyor of all things AD&D and awesome. Did y'all have a good weekend? I had a pretty good one. I spent Friday evening cooking. Yes, even unto the time when I was running Gamma World, I was cooking just because that's how I roll. I am capable of doing that degree of multitasking. And then Saturday, I got up and I did some baking on Saturday. I made a key lime cheesecake. Friday, I made pulled chicken and pulled pork, many pounds of each. And then on Sunday, I got up and I made Asian coleslaw. And Sunday afternoon, I went over to my relative's house, my in-laws, and we had a fine time. Good evening to everyone there in the chat. I salute you. It's good to see you. But anyhow, here I am again, talking to you guys, sitting in this medieval torture device, aka these event chairs, which once upon a time were comfortable and now they're not. They're extremely uncomfortable. But I just kind of jokingly call them medieval torture devices because they put me in an agonizing amount of pain for an extended period of time. I have got to do something about these. I will sort it out. So I'm just going to jump right into a couple of fun things that are going on. Thursday, we have confirmed. Confidence is high. Thursday, Sky Hernstrom will be here. Sky is going to talk about his fantasy novels. He's going to talk about being an author, and we're going to talk about gaming because Sky is my brother from another mother. He loves him some classic first edition AD&D, and oh boy, are we going to talk about getting our game on, in addition to all the other fun stuff. But wait, there's more, because next Thursday night, we have the one, the only Steve Marsh. That's right. The Steve Marsh of TSR fame will be in the house. We'll talk about working for TSR. We'll talk about all the cool stuff he did while he was at TSR. And then we're going to talk about his projects after he left and projects for the future. That's going to be a lot of fun. So rev up your questions. Send them to me in YouTube. And we'll ask those of Steve. So I'm looking forward to that. And then the week after, that's right, folks. The week after, we have somebody, the John Popson of Effin' Cool Minis on Thursday will be in the house. He'll talk to us about what goodies they've got going on over at Effin' Cool. So I'm pretty hyped. I hope you guys are pretty hyped because there's a lot of good stuff coming up. There's a lot of good stuff coming up. Working on a little something on the side myself, Yang and Zhao, possibly the Dungeon Minister if he's cool with it, maybe some other folks. I don't want to give away too much. I don't want to spoil too much. But there'll be other cool stuff coming down the line. Of course, you can't forget we have got the Great Underground Online Gaming Convention. It's happening. The guac is coming. Tableside guac. Tabletop guac. So I'm excited about that, and I hope you're excited about it too. Now, one thing that I am very excited about, we just blew up. Well, from my perspective, from Friday to today, we like 16 people signed up, subscribed to the stream. Welcome, you marvelous people. Thank you. Thank you all for joining. Thanks for all clicking that subscribe button, clicking that bell icon for notifications. I dig it. I dig it very much. And I really, really, truly, surely, sorely appreciate your patronage in the sense that you watch the show, not in that you are patrons. You might not be aware when I talk of this guac exactly what I mean, especially if this is your first turn around here. The Great Underground Online Gaming Convention is a virtual tabletop convention that is happening the weekend of May the 19th. Guys, it's not far away at all. All right. It is not far away at all. So what you need to do is, let me get this up here. If you're not familiar with how we're doing this, over to Band, get yourself an account, and check out the game grid we've got going. We have got 4 days of virtual tabletop games. Yours truly, I'm going to be running some OD&D, some AD&D, some Space Hulk, some Tales from the Loop, maybe some Twilight 2000, possibly some Dungeon, possibly some Hero Quest. I'm going to have a full plate of fun. And then there's other people running games too. That's the beauty of it. It's not just me doing the convention. Because I said back last year, I said, hey, if I get 1,000 subs, I'll do a games day. Well, I'll do a demo of AD&D for you guys. Then it became, I'll do a games day. Then it became, does somebody else want to do? And it just kind of snowballed into the Great Online Underground Gaming Convention. Great Underground Online Gaming Convention. I get 2,000 subs. No, I don't. No, I don't. Tack like 4 or 5 zeros onto that, and I might. But you guys got to pay my bail. Jehovah, welcome, welcome. Good to see you, Jehovah. I don't know. The last time I was down at Epcot, it was in a state. It was in a state. Because lockdowns were ending, Disney was reopening, the stuff Disney started doing when lockdowns were happening wasn't done, but they still opened. So Epcot was basically a series of construction sites. There were still a few things that were open, but it went from open world sandbox to very narrow railroady dungeon crawl. Like if you wanted to get to Spaceship Earth from one place, like you could know, like, well, we'll walk around the lake this way and what. No, they had like wooden walls up that were very narrow to guide people through. So it was not a lot of fun. And I don't know if they've changed that now. But anyway. No, I think the next great landmark is when we hit 10,000 subs on the channel, I'll do an IRL gaming con. It won't be free. You know, I mean, like other cons, there will be a nominal price. But I think that if that happens, that's so far down the road that you guys could probably pick up every penny you see in a parking lot or on a sidewalk somewhere and afford to come and attend. So we'll just see how that goes. Anyway, gaming news. This kind of disturbed me. I was not happy about this. So let me state up front. Nothing Wizards of the Coast does can hurt me or us as old school gamers, okay? They can't sneak into my house and steal my books. They're not going to email all of my players and say, first edition sucks, leave your DM. They do kind of interfere with getting more people looking at old school games, But that's okay. We're stronger than they are. All right. We can go strength to strength on classic D&D. I mean, they do half of our advertising for us. What has every season of Stranger Things been but a love letter to Dungeons and Dragons? Classic Dungeons and Dragons. Okay? There is no way the WotC could shoehorn 5e retroactively back into the 1980s. So what's it been? You know, it's been the Mind Flayer. It's been Demogorgon. And now it's Vecna coming up. And I know all those things have carried forward. You know what I'm talking about. Now, Vince, I agree with you. They can do that. Which is why I have been so vehemently against certain people pushing their buttons. But I also know that old school D&D is a big tent, and it gets bigger every time an edition comes out. I haven't personally met any, but I would imagine there's some people who started like they were 10 when 4th edition came out, and they saw it and they wanted to play D&D, and that's the D&D they played, right? Well, that was in 2007. That was in 2007. Guys, that was 15 years ago. So think about it. They were 10. They're now 25. Their nostalgic memories are for 4th ed. And if they feel they got fired as customers and they're old school, well, so let it be written, so let it be done. They, so they might be on the outer fringes of that big tent, but they're still there. But in just talking about original basic 1st edition AD&D, I try to be ecumenical about it. I mean, hell, as much as I love AD&D, I didn't play AD&D when I first played D&D. I played a D&D that I made up using Keep on the Borderlands tuned for Holmes Basic D&D, because I didn't have a D&D rule book, but there's enough D&D rules in the basic module for me to have filled in everything else and made up stuff and had fun. So I feel for people who love classic stuff, even if it's not my jam. Look, I know people that say, look, man, Gray Box, Forgotten Realms, before it got completely over the top, totally usable system. Just the Gray Box. Fair enough. And I know people that yanked the railroad tracks up out of Dragonlance. I said, you can do anything. I'm running it like a sandbox. You don't have to do the Dragons modules, Raceland isn't going to come and save you. And so I appreciate that. And to those people, I say, you have my deepest sympathies. My deepest sympathies that Wizards of the Coast has seen fit to strip mine 2 classic settings for their own purposes. They announced in a flurry of tweets and social media posts and whatnot, because we don't get good stuff at Gen Con anymore. Now it's just a presser put out electronically. they announced, hey, we're bringing back Spelljammer. Hey, we're bringing back Dragonlance. Now, D&D, or TSR, never let go of Greyhawk. Greyhawk was second only to Forgotten Realms in terms of sales and popularity. And it was very close. And that is from the marketing director at TSR at the time. For years and years, she said people bought Greyhawk and Forgotten Realms. Just like that. Hello, GR. Welcome, sir. But they always held on to Greyhawk. So Greyhawk being dragged along. I mean, Gary, all he could do is just kind of shrug his shoulders, write his Gord the Rogue novels. And then towards the end of his days, he had us. Hello, Dungeon Minister. Yeah, he had us in the writers group trying to get a new and improved Greyhawk under a different name published, which didn't come to fruition. You've gotten little bits and pieces of it. But for the most part, Spelljammer came and went. And really, Dragonlance has lain fallow for years. Now, Wizards of the Coast just got done with a big legal entanglement with Tracy Hickman and Margaret Weiss over Dragonlance. But they announced that they're revisiting Spelljammer and they're revisiting Dragonlance, which, again, as I have said before, I think are late edition road signs that the edition that is current is coming to an end. That seems to have been their model going all the way back to 3rd edition. Announcing, the core of that edition is this setting. Then at the end, announce a new setting, and then it crumbles away. Then the whole edition crumbles away. And you hope to capture a few buyers for the new edition. So I think that's what they're doing here. But here's the thing, and this pisses me off from a creator's standpoint. This pisses me off from a creator's standpoint. They did not see fit to contact, to reach out to include, to bring on board, to confer with, to have a confab, a sit down, a mention, a co-announcement with Jeff Grubb, creator of Spelljammer, or Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman, creators of Dragonlance. They froze them out. Now, you might make the claim, hey, it's theirs. They can do what they want with it. But I'm going to tell you something. I think that's a pretty crap attitude. They don't have to, but by not doing so and saying, well, just legally we're not really bound to, just shows that they're a bunch of suits. They're just a bunch of suits. They're just a bunch of corporate shills. They're strip mining old stuff to regurgitate and sell just for ideas. And at least Wizards of the Coast of the late 90s and early 2000s had Gary and Dave on the stage when they announced 3rd edition. Okay, Paul, I'm showing my ignorance here. I thought Spelljammer was a late 1E, like it came in during that transformative time. But if it's a 2E thing, the point is not whether or not Spelljammer is corny. I think it's corny. It's not my cup of tea. All right, it really isn't. I thought it looked just stultifyingly. I can't even. I'm not making this up. There was a Spelljammer module where your adventure was on the back of a giant floating in space. Like his back was itching, and it was because space goblins had set up a camp. The point that I'm making is not about the kosherness of Spelljammer or whether or not it's corny. The point is Wizards of the Coast taking a giant steaming crap on creators. Not even include them. Hey, can you imagine how it would be if Gary were still with us and Greyhawk had gone cold during late TSR tenure, and say Wizards of the Coast came along and they Forgotten Realms as their core for 3rd edition, and then just out of the blue the other day they announced, oh, we're going to start re-releasing Greyhawk materials. We got a whole Greyhawk thing going on. No, we do know they weren't included, Lord Corion, and I'm going to tell you, Margaret Weiss and Jeff Grubb both, people asked them on social media, hey, do you think this is cool? And they're like, we weren't told. No idea is given. I mean, Wizards of the Coast just got done with a massive lawsuit that got settled out of court over Dragonlance rights. They said themselves specifically, we weren't told, we didn't know, we were not given any info about this. So what I'm saying, and any further developments along these lines to come, I think it's a terrible thing to do to creators and authors. I mean, one of the original Batman artists did an illustration, like they went to him and said, hey, we're in 1988, we're making this new Batman movie. It's going to be released next year. Would you like a cameo? And he felt he was too frail. So he did the little political cartoon that they hand Robert Wool's character of a like Count Dracula bat in a tuxedo. If you look, there's a very prominent signature on the bottom, Bob Kane. All right, Bob Kane drew that. That's respecting a creator. That's showing respect for a creator. So I think that's a pretty crap thing to do. Whether it's for a setting that I like or for a setting that I didn't like. I mean, they've been strip mining Greyhawk for years now. You know? They won't do anything proper with it. Look at that bald-headed dildo with ears, Sean K. Reynolds. They'll call him Mordenkainen. And suddenly, that's what Mordenkainen looks like. But we won't get a proper Greyhawk. Although, to be honest with you, only stuff that is either based on Gary's notes or Rob Kuntz's work is proper Greyhawk. Or, I'm sorry, let me open up my arms a little bit. Alan Hammock, if Alan Hammock wrote it, I would take it as Greyhawk. Jim Ward. So that's just my 2 cents on that. This came up actually over on Clownfish. They were talking about this last night. I was like the first person to comment on the video, and a whole bunch of people made comments on it. So if you're new, by the way, like if you came from that, welcome, thank you. Like if you saw, like, oh, I'm going to check out this guy's channel. If you're one of the 16 people that subbed, thank you for all that. I appreciate that quite a lot. I appreciate that quite a lot. I'm going to stick that up there, GR. Thank you. I'm 62 and played it in high school in the mid-70s when it was the 3 booklets. Well, we love the 3 booklets around here. Yes, sir, we do. Yes, sir, we do. All the living Greyhawk material? I have no idea. That was a 3rd edition Greyhawk thing. Oh, thank you, John David. I appreciate it. I'm still, if you ever see me stand up to adjust a light or something like that, and I'm like hunched over, I still don't have the chair. I still, some cool band t-shirts in the wardrobe. I have a Led Zeppelin t-shirt, John. I have a Led Zeppelin t-shirt that barely fits anymore. I'll see what I got. I'll see what I got in the wardrobe. You've called me out, and I'm gonna have to do something about it. Maybe like a Sabbath tee, something like that. I could do that. I could do that. We can do that. But hey, if you are one of the people that's new here. A Pearl Jam shirt? I don't know that I have any. I know I had some back in the day. Let me go look. I'll see what I got. I'll see what I got in the closet there. I could come out of corporate, wear a, white business shirt, tie. Living Greyhawk, that was 2nd edition. Oh yeah, that okay, all right. No, Mad Donna. I'm sorry. Not. Okay, I'll shoot you a message. Thank you. I appreciate that. Oh my gosh, that's my studio, with my 1x1 wooden end of the workbench where I can resin 3D print. And this door, by the way, is weather stripped, so no, I'm not sitting here breathing fumes in. Got a Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon. I saw Pink Floyd. That's not where I got Floyd. Floyd here I got at a record store that I worked at back in 88, 87. But I saw the tour that was for. But Floyd came home from the record store with me. But I saw Pink Floyd here in Orlando right about this time of year, actually. I got the tickets as a graduation present from my folks. So, yeah, gosh, I'm sorry. I just suddenly waxed nostalgic. There was a stretch like right after high school, all the way up into the mid '90s, when I was going to like 2 or 3 concerts a year. It seemed like I've got my ticket stubs. Maybe one night we can talk about that. I'll scan them and I'll put them up on the screen and I'll talk about the shows. As much as I'm into rock and metal, and yes, we're going to talk about Descent into the Depths. I promise. I promise. Hey, Imperial Ramblings. Metal. You got to love metal, right? This is going to sound completely weird, but I love telling this story and blame. John David, did you catch the show where we did, and this is anyone else, we had Bob Antone, who is in a band with a dear friend of mine, but we had a musical night. Bob donated a piece of music to the show, as we have on the front half of the show, for the intro, we have the music by Bards of Greyhawk, and I'm working on an outro because Bob gifted us a song. He gave us a song about owl bears that is simply amazing. I'll play that again for you one night. But we could do like a music night thing. I feel you, man. I feel you. But so here it is. And then after this, I promise, cross my heart, I promise we'll talk about Descent in the Depths. The best concert I have ever been to, this is just going to blow you guys' minds, is Billy Joel. I went to see Billy Joel on Stormfront back in listen, YouTube algorithm. Stormfront was the name of the tour. It's Billy Joel's Stormfront tour. It had nothing to do with the horrible people. Anyway. So we go to the concert, and I was there with Melanie Blair. Melanie and I went to the concert. We got there. Now, this is not like when I went to see Metallica or Queensryche or Aerosmith, any number of heavy rock bands, where it was like, y'all are going to wait outside until we decide to let you in, and you're going to come in one at a time. We're going to beep you with a scanner thing. It was just like, oh, it's a Billy Joel concert. Open up all the doors to the arena. Everybody just I'm getting there, Luther. I'm getting there. The threat's so nice, you had to make it twice. So we go to the venue. We're there like an hour and a half before, as I just wanted to get in, get comfy, get a popcorn, Coke, whatever. And we're in the arena. Now, most arenas, they're oval or roundish, bowl-shaped, basically. Melanie and I were in the nosebleed seats all the way in the back of the venue. Top, like one row from the top. And there's people milling around, but it's like an hour and a half before the show starts. And we're just sitting there, Mel and I, we're chit-chatting. And so this guy walks up to us. And he's got the cargo shorts and t-shirt and work boots, and he's got a million things hanging off of him. And he walks up and says, "Hey, would you guys like better seats?" We're like, "Yeah, sure." He goes, "Well, how about some seats?" And he points, just kind of gestures. "How about some seats up front?" "Hey, Carlo, good to see you." And I'm like, okay, What do they cost us? And he's like, none, it's free. And Melanie's like, you mean like up front of this section? And he points down in front of the stage. In front of the stage, like in front, over near where like the piano is, and he's like, no, in front. And we're like, what? And he said, yeah, we rearranged the stage and moved it back a little bit, and it opened up a bunch of rows, and Billy just bought the tickets, and he's having us walk around and just give them out to folks who are sitting up here in the nosebleed section. Oh. I learned a new thing today. It's called crowd dusting. So corporate buy up front row seats, then they don't show up, so it looks bad for the artist, so they pass it out to the nosebleeds. Well, so down we go, and there we sat, about as far from me as it is to the camera over there, away from Billy Joel, and it was a hell of a show. It was a hell of a show. And it was really, really, really good. I mean, I've been to everything. I've been to little tiny club shows. Went to Lollapalooza like the next year. Gosh. Aerosmith, Rush twice, Don Henley a couple times, Tom Petty twice, Metallica a couple times, both indoors at that same venue and then outdoors at a big stadium show with them and Faith No More and Guns N' Roses. Pearl Jam, KMFDM more times than I can. It's like 2 or 3 times I saw KMFDM. A lot of shows. We'll do Ticket Stub night one night. Oh, that's nice. John David pulls the curtain back a little bit. Right on. Okay. Walt Whitman summoning myself as Luther. Point taken, my friend. Point taken. Let's talk about some classic D&D. Yeah, Tom Petty was phenomenal. He had the chandeliers from I'm doing it again. He had the chandeliers from Pack Up the Plantation hanging over the audience. Just these gorgeous, huge light fixtures that looked like classical glass chandeliers hanging down. So awesome. Did like this 7-minute version of Jammin' Me during the show. Just good stuff. Paul saw Front 242 at Metro in Chicago. Oh my gosh. Be still my heart. Still disappointed I never saw Rush. Met Getty at a function I was working at, and he's super nice. Oh, I can imagine, Chris. I can imagine. It's such a tragedy. But listen, let's talk about Descent into the Depths. Let's talk about... Now, here's the thing. We're going to do an overview of Descent into the Depths tonight, because when I was looking through it today, it occurred to me, and this goes with the G series, and I wish I'd really realized this watching the G series videos. I feel just terrible that I didn't realize this, but when I went back and watched them, I did not do them justice by just holding the modules up like that. I really, really should have had, I mean, even if they're not available, I should have scanned these as PDFs and had them up on the screen. So D1 is going to be in 2 pieces. I don't mean I'm not going to cover as much stuff as I possibly can. I am, but I want you guys to see this clearly. I want you, especially D1. I've said that I've said that D1 was kind of like getting your master's in running a D&D game. That if you can do this is like your master's thesis, D1, D2, and D3. And they really are. So, add an overview, not counting maps, not counting illustrations. My wife's cat's on the table, so if you see a fuzzy tail sticking up, going back and forth, that's her. But I think she just wants to lay on top of Dwarven Forge. You can smell the set. It does have a 70s used book smell to it, John David. It's only 12 pages long, but if you've taken anything away, I'm going to hold this up while I talk. If you've taken anything away from the G modules, it's that their size means nothing. There is such this the info is so densely packed in here, and there's such awesomeness in here that a page count should mean nothing. One thing that you're not going to find in D1, though, that I can tell you, is an easy dungeon map. This is a rare bird right here, not just because it's pastel. It's whether you run the pastel or the 4-color version. I know! How much wasted space, Chris, right? But D1, and to a lesser extent D2, and we're going to talk about that when we talk about D2 later, D1 is a dungeon sandbox. It sticks your players in an underground environment, but it is so big that they can still navigate here and there and everywhere. It is an underground environment. Let me ask you guys something, just any of you. Are you fans of the George Powell Journey to the Center of the Earth? If you are, you're going to love this module, because it's very much that. It's very much that. There are new monsters. I believe the Germaline. And there are some nasty encounters, but here's the thing. There are a very tiny number of encounter areas in this module. The map that the DM has to work with when the players are on their way. Let me see if I can find it. I know there's a couple of maps towards the back, but I want to show you guys here. Again, I kind of want to. That's your map. That's your map. That's your dungeon map as a DM. Each one of those hexes is 5 miles or something insane like that. It's either 1 mile or 5 miles. You, the DM, have it upon you to populate. Now you notice that's not blacked out. Yeah, I know, Ricky. That's why I'm saying. I'm going to talk about this more in a second part. You as a DM have it as part of your job with this to fill this out. Your players might head off in a completely different direction, whether they wanted to or not. The number of fixed encounters in this module is, let me just take a look here real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's 9 encounter areas in this module. The rest is open space for you to explore. Not just as players, as a DM. There are charts and tables here to work with. And I'm going to take you to task a little bit, but in a good way, Luther, in just a second. I see what you said. Now, one of the coolest things that came with this, and again, we'll look at this more, dungeon geomorphs. How do you describe the caves? You've got a section of dungeon geomorphs. Well, really, cavern geomorphs. And you can probably come up with your own. But for many of the encounter areas, you'll just have to make it up on the fly as they go. But it is a long road trip of a module. You will note that the player's version of the map shows only a relatively narrow section of the whole area. That part which pertains to the module, and the other 2 in the set. As Dungeon Master, you might wish to develop other material regarding the encounter areas shown on your large-scale map. You can then allow your players to explore passages which are off the map, thus eventually completing their version, and of course, having many adventures along the way. You can place other drow enclaves, locate the realm of the mind flayers, expand the underground sea, and place the Kutoan stronghold, etc. And then you've got tables, you've got things you can encounter. Random monster tables for passages. It's just so many tables. Now, there are maps in here also. Yes, Vinny, I was just relating that. Now, whoever owned this before me was kind enough to color in. I don't know if the color is showing up very much, but that's the DM's map. And then this is a large area that awaits them at the end. You can play AD&D in Mystara Mobius. So, descent into the depths of the earth really is a challenge to good DMing skills. Now, I do disagree with you there. You're not making the entire module. But the frameworkiness of G1, G2, and G3, like, what's the wilderness beyond the steading and the rift and the hall? What are those areas like? Well, that's up to the GM. If the party chooses to go overland, he has just as much work, if not more than what you've got in here. So it really, really does require a good amount of legwork. Now, with that said, This module, and you can't see it, I'll show you in the I'll show you when we do scans and we look at this to a larger extent. It says right here on the cover, my poor old eyes, official D&D tournament module used at Gen Con 11. This module, this whole module, from beginning to end, with all of that open space, was intended to be run in a tournament slot of 4 to 5 hours. Now think about that for a second. Think about being players and going down that underground highway. And you got from 10 to 2, or from noon to 4, or from 4 to 8, or 8 to midnight. And that's it. You're not going to get another shot at it. Well, not at players and not as a tournament module. That module, want more open space, a blank piece of paper. You're salty about this, Luther. But the idea from a home play standpoint is that players could be in this module for months. Okay, it's, we're starting on June 1st, we're playing once a week, and fast forward, it's now the end of August, and we're finally finding our way to the Shrine of the Kuatoa. What is months. That in-game could be weeks, months, or longer. Running this as anything other than a railroad, it's a sloping tunnel that goes ahead of you. You have no idea how far it is. I read 6 encounters. If you can do that, if you can come back and that's good. I will answer that question in just a second. The Appalachian Trail, but underground. Let me see. That's a darn fine question. Um, 67, if I'm reading this article right. 1967 was the first Gen Con. Now, TSR didn't take it over until 75, so there were many Gen Cons before then when it became... And it wasn't even just TSR's jam at that point, right? What was it, 99 or 2000 Gen Con? Like the biggest vendor there was Sony Verant shilling EverQuest. The Appalachian Trail, but underground. Or the Oregon Trail, but underground. You have died of disintegration. So I'm gonna scan this module, and we're actually gonna look at D1 again for the next one, and because I want to show you guys this. I want you guys to grok how much of a challenge. I didn't want to say difficult. How much of a challenge D1 really is. Now, with that said, I do want to talk about a couple of the set piece encounters. Oh, and by the way, this is the only published first edition AD&D module that by set encounter, the original Donner Party but underground, that by set encounter has a beholder. Well, by a possible encounter has a beholder in it. But there is an absolute beast of an encounter in this. And I remember it's very much, by the way, in case you were wondering, this does have its original price tag on it, $4.99. I'll make sure that gets scanned when I show that to you guys. That is one of the little orange chink price tags, $4.99. Move that cup over there so I don't spill water on this little jewel. So, talk about encounters in this. Again, I love this module. I'm scared of this module from a DMing standpoint. Now, guys, look, I don't want to break my arm patting myself on the back, but I am a really good DM. I happen to think I'm a pretty darn good dungeon master when it comes to setting a scene, running a game. I mean, people watch me do it on stream. People play in the on-stream game. Well, Chris has been reading ahead. He's talking about one of my favorite encounters. Paul Stormberg. We got to have Paul back on the show again one of these days, guys. Paul's a lot of fun. Paul Stormberg tells a story about his players dealing with this encounter and the fight taking 8 hours. The players were high enough level. They had actually been through S3 before doing the Giant series. They were fighting monsters in the Descent, including this next encounter, with disintegration and laser pistols. So this is what Gary has waiting for you. You could do that. I can't. Was it Vince Neil who did the narration at the beginning of the Shout at the Devil by Motley Crue? Anyway, I need a soundboard and make my voice all hollow and demonic sounding when I read some of this stuff one night. Anyway, so at some point in your adventures along this, that module now goes for 10 times. I'm not sure what this one would be worth any because, hail Michael Connor on Reddit, because it does have these pencil colored in hex maps in the back, which I've showed you guys. So probably not much. But I'll show you guys when we delve more, no pun intended, into the D series. The difference between this and the 4-color D1, D2 module. Although why they just didn't do a D1, 2, 3 and then Q1 as a standalone, I don't know, but they didn't. So anyhow, so Paul's group faced this lich, and I'm about to read this to you. Asperdes the First, who just wanted to live in a little apartment off the main drag, not be bothered by the drow, not be bothered by adventurers. And if you get stumbled into, if you're wondering, like, I'm never going to run the drow modules, or the descent modules, rather, but I need a lich. Nice, convenient pre-printed lich right here. First level, Burning Hands, Charm Person, Magic Missile twice. Remember, he's casting that at something some horrible level, 20th level or something like that. So you're going to eat 10 magic missiles. Let's see. Second level, invisibility, mirror image, ray of enfeeblement, web ×2. Third level. Now, these aren't just spells he can know. These are what he has memorized. Ray of enfeeblement, web. Dispel magic, fireball. Fly, lightning bolt, phantasmal force. Fourth level, confusion, charm monster, dimension door, tumble, fumble, as I did that word, polymorph other. Fifth level, cloud kill, cone of cold, hold monster, teleport, wall of force. Globe of invulnerability, invisible stalker, repulsion, flesh to stone. Limited wish. Limited wish. Mordenkainen's sword, reverse gravity. Bigby's, that's 7th level. 8th level, Bigby's clenched fist, Otto's irresistible dance, monster summoning 6. 9th level. That was all 8th level. 9th level. Time stop and power word kill. Guys, this dude is bad news. When Paul told me about this fight taking 9 hours, it was like an entire session. I realized that it is on a completely different plane. I mean, it's on the prime material plane still. In terms of difficulty, it is on a completely different plane. You know, GR points out fireball in a cavern is fantastic and dangerous. It absolutely is. Now look at the magic resistance of a lich. You don't think he'd drop it, final defensive fire? He can cast limited wish. He can cast time stop. Power word kill. Just DMing this guy alone. Just DMing this guy alone. It is bad news, guys. This encounter alone in here, if you can run this guy right, if you can run this guy right, and your party manages to win, whoo-wee. They are absolutely ready for D2 and D3. Pardon me, whilst I check my massages. Get destroyed. Yes, they will absolutely get destroyed. So when I talk about the difficulty of this module, I don't care what you want to make up to fit in here. DM, you've got a lot of work in front of you. Now let's consider what I was saying about the Giants modules. If you are if you are a player and your party has hacked their way from G1 to here, I mean, this is the hottest fire, and your metal's going to get purified, or you're going to get wrecked. This is no kidding around stuff. We're going to do an even deeper dive into this. I don't think going on about this for a half an hour or even 45 minutes, if I talk about this for another half an hour, and given an entire hour, because, we had all the preamble about music and whatnot, which was fun talk. I will not have given it its due. It deserves more of a look. I just want you guys to really absorb the awesomeness of this module and be able to see what I'm talking about. Because again, it's, my studio lights. It's not. So what I'm saying here about this module is it is every hex. I mean, if you've watched the shows that Kyle and I have done about hex populating, now, you as the DM, of course, you have a hex map of your own here. But everything that's not an encounter area on that hex map that you guys can't see is something you got to potentially expect the party to explore further. In a way, it is nearly the perfect bookend. If you started your campaign once upon a time, that's very true, Tonka Todd. But if once upon a time your party started way back in B2, all the way back in B2, think about the forest that surrounds the keep. There's lizardmen, bandits, a giant spider, the mad hermit, and his puma. Did I miss anything? Lizardman, bandits, giant spider, mad hermit, and his puma. That's not a lot of encounter areas. That's a lot of empty map around the keep. Whether you decide to put that in the Pomarge, up in the Bandit Kingdoms, that's the same thing I deleted, lol. But if you have B2 as your starting point, as a DM, when you get here, this might feel like familiar territory to you. This might feel more like an encounter area where you can really stretch your legs, There's subterranean horrors. What will you find? I mean, they talk about finding a city of the mind flayers, for goodness sake. What if your party just hooked into that? They're running from brain eaters and destroying them. All the associated terribleness. Or a nest, a hive of Umber Hulks. A besieged city of Snirfneblin, the deep gnomes. Jack, you've got it perfectly right. You get a gold star. You may go to the head of the class. A framework to drape your work upon. Your party could enter this nightmare fairyland and find a relatively safe space and slowly, over months of subjective time, plan their their assault slowly rather than we're going to force march for days through this straight causeway right down. We're going to blow through the Shrine of the Kuatoa, and we're going to burn the Drow City to the ground. First of all, no, they're not. Not unless you've got 50 people at your table and they're all 20th level. But there's so many opportunities here for you as a DM. Run it as that straight causeway. Get it out of the way in an evening. But I think if you do, you're denying yourself an opportunity to really put your own fingerprint on this and make your players look back on this like they looked back on the Giants modules. I mean, they might have the Titan and the Storm Giantess with them at this point. Maybe you've run them through Expedition to the Barrier Peaks and they're loaded to the gills and looking for trouble with ray guns and lasers and so on. The name of that module, are you talking about B1? The lower portion of B1 was unstocked. In Search of the Unknown was the lower level was not stocked. So that's a positive takeaway, guys, for this module. For our first blush at this module, I really, despite only being 12 pages long, I really want to dip into this as far as the mechanics in it go. Now, I talked about the weird temple in G1 and some of the other strangeness in G3, the difficulty of G2, just the sheer, just rock hard difficulty of getting through that module in G2. But I really want to give this module its due, and I want to look more at it. And I wish, in retrospect, I could have and probably should have done multiple shows on each of the individual G modules. But I don't want to take them too much apart because I want you as players or dungeon masters, prospectively, in the future to take these modules to your bosom, and I want you to enjoy them and experience them, and I know, like, it's, a lot of folks today, and hey, look, let me tell you what, I'm just as guilty of this as the next person. I'll put on a let's play of a game in the background and just, oh, that's what's over there. Yeah, huh, interesting. With never any real intent of going in and playing it. Volcano God's over there trying to get kicked. But the really meaty portions of this and how it works and why it's so difficult, why it is so easy to run, difficult to run well. I want you guys to see that. I want you to see the inner mechanism. So I hope you'll join us again for another dive into D1. Believe me, all the stuff I've told you, I've talked about the maps, the causeway length, everything like that. We really are only in the shallow end of the module. Really and truly. And when we get to D2, and I've got D2 here, you know what? I'll grab it off the table over here. Now, if you're and I don't want to go too much into this yet, but if you're feeling, after D1, if you're feeling a little overwhelmed as a DM, maybe with D2 you'll go, oh man, okay, this is a building complex and I can kind of grok this more. Maybe not, but we'll get to this at the appropriate time. Damien says trying to destroy a city in D&D is probably about as difficult as destroying a castle in D&D. Okay, now this came up, and I apologize, Damien, because I don't know if it was you who was asking me this. Someone was asking about blowing up a city the size of like this historical castle in D&D with fireball spells. Like, I want to nuke the city. And I'm not making fun of the idea. I mean, you as okay, all right, thank you. All right, cool. So I'm kind of putting you on the spot a little, but in a positive way, I hope. Because I'm like that. I love my fans, and I don't want you to feel like... And so Damien had an excellent question the other day. Too good, frankly, in my opinion, to wait. Although we may touch on it again. And that is nuking a city in D&D. Even wooden doors have construction values that will defy a fireball blast. Fireball, meteor swarm, ice storm. You can rain that stuff down on a city. Yeah, thanks for the reminder, Dungeon Minister. In Dungeons and Dragons, you can rain destruction down on a city in Dungeons and Dragons and do fantasy game damage to a city in Dungeons and Dragons. Because that's what we're talking about, Dungeons and Dragons. But I mean, a wish spell would be more effective, like, a very well worded wish spell. But a fireball does 1/2 of a construction point of damage. 1/2 of a construction point. Construction points, I believe, and I could be wrong about this, I don't have the PDF in front of me for the Dungeon Master's Guide, and I don't want you guys to have to look at this 10 minutes while I look through the book to find it. But a construction point is not at a 1-to-1 ratio. Or maybe it is at a 1-to-1 ratio, but it's just like the construction points in structures in D&D are insane. And then if you start throwing in saving throws, like, oh, okay, well, you lob fireball at the castle wall, save for 1/2. It leaves kind of a black scorch spot on it. It doesn't appear to... Well, I can do that 2 more times. Knock yourself out. But now spells like Earthquake. Earthquake is your go-to city destroying spell for obvious reasons. That will do multiple tens, like 40, 50 construction points to wooden and stone structures in AD&D. Those are your go-to spells. This is why we come back to AD&D as the infiltrate the party, polymorph self on our lovely assassin, who then slits the queen's throat and drops her down a hole somewhere. And she says, "But good subjects, I have seen a vision. Those who lay siege to our city mean us no harm. Open the gates." That's what AD&D is all about. Volcano God, can I have some of what you're drinking tonight? As long as it's not Bud Chelada, please. Well, the specifics of what we're talking about with the destruction. Again, it was Damien came to me and he said, "Hey, I want to nuke a city." And that's why when you get to the invoked devastation and the rain of colorless fire, those magics are lost. I mean, you'd have to put those like up at wish level. Fireball. Oh, Volcano God's drinking Fireball. Oh my. But yeah, to tie it back to the D series, just, we'll just roll up on Ares Simlu and just start dropping high level spells on it. First of all, the Drow all have magic resistance. Second of all, many high level Drow magic users, many gatings will be happening. To quote the man, you would not survive the attempt. But there are little things you can do. 10th level spells. Oh, well, Chris, there you have it, 10th level spells. That tracks. I do not remember having a discussion with Gary about that, but that absolutely tracks. People messaging me all over the place. Big disgrace. Yeah, Drow are, we're going to talk some about the Drow more when we get into the D modules. Well, Damien, there's just finds it odd in D&D that with all the magic and money, it's still more efficient to build a trebuchet to take down a castle wall. Sometimes you just got to do things that way, I think to me, that imbalance, if you will, kind of prevents the game from becoming Magic Punk. Like, there's a Lamplighters Guild in Greyhawk. Why is there a Lamplighters Guild? Why can't you just continue a light on a pole every 10 feet, there are stone to mud things that can happen. Damage that can happen, rather, with stone to mud, I would think. But no, I feel like there's a lot to be said for just keeping it simple. As far as, why is trebuchet? Why not just some spell? Well, good old-fashioned stone does the trick, right? Now, I do remember, in response to Volcano God over in the discussion asking about a 10th level spell, there was an April Fool's issue of the Dragon that said, hey, here's 8th and 9th level cleric spells and 10th and 11th level magic user spells, but they were completely ridiculous. Like, one was like alter the gate, like literally, like, Bob, you're no longer the dungeon master. That's how powerful my spell and casting is. You're no longer the DM. It was meant as very tongue-in-cheek. But I would dare say, I would opine, I would forward the idea that in AD&D, the Rain of Colorless Fire and the Invoke Devastation were not so much spells as they were summonings to gods, like multiple, like, you know, we're just bringing all of our powers together to summon a god to do this. And they were like, well, we're bringing all of our powers together to summon a god to do this. And thus ruin happens. You know, the old Seoul Empire is just deleted on. So I feel like there is your, oh wow, was it this powerful kind of you know, kind of spell. It wasn't just something like, hey, I found a scroll of the Invoke Devastation. I found a scroll of the Rain of Colorless Fire. You know, it just doesn't work that way. And I would opine, again, some discussion going on over there. ROUSs, Michael? I don't think they exist. The state of nuclear justice. Oh my gosh. You know, may just cost money. Peasants will dig the trench just slower. I would dare say there's probably some superstition playing into that. Like, look, you said you would make buttresses for that new stone bridge. Then Marcellus the Fink came along and cast Dispel Magic, and the bridge collapsed. We're not doing stuff with magic. No. We're not doing stuff with magic. Get me a couple hundred stone workers that I can pay $1 a week, and we'll rebuild the bridge like normal people. Volcano Gods says Rain of Colorless Fire versus the Invoke Devastation. Who was right? Well, you know, I gotta say, in the end, it doesn't matter who's right, only who's left. And after that, very few people will left. That's my hot take on it. So tomorrow night, we will have some more discussion. I will have some scans of D1 and put those up on the screen there for you guys to look at. And then, not related to D1, not yet, not for a long time, we will play some first edition AD&D. That's right. You guys can watch us let's play some AD&D where the party have stolen a siege engine. Wednesday, Kyle's back. Kyle will be here on Wednesday. I'm excited about that. You should be too. Kyle will be here on Wednesday, and we'll have us a final time. Thursday, I'm really hyped about. Sky Hernstrom will be here on Thursday. Then we're going to have a lot of fun because Sky is a fantasy author, an old school D&D player, and I have been waiting to get him on the show. So Sky will be here on Thursday. And then Friday, more chit-chatting about stuff. And then we're going to play some Gamma World on Friday. And last but not least, next week we have the Steve Marsh from TSR will be in the house. All the stuff we normally do, and Steve Marsh next week. Are you excited about that? I'm excited about that. I'm very excited about that. So I'm looking forward to it, and I hope you guys are too. And then the week after that, more of the same, but also John Popson from Effing Cool Minis. Guys, the fun doesn't stop around here. Am I right? Do we always have a good time? I always have a good time. That's going to both rock and roll. Just like we talked about at the beginning of the show, rock and roll. But I got to take a minute. I got to take a minute to take a deep breath. And I got to thank some of the people who've contributed to the show on Patreon and on Subscribestar. Thank you all so much. And that, if you want to do that, and you don't have to, I get it. But if you do want to support the show, right down there, we are on Subscribestar at the-Delvers-Dungeon. We are over on Patreon at the Delvers Dungeon. You can support either one of those. You can always throw a super chat up. I don't mind. Or if you just want to hang out and have fun, that's cool too. But let me take a minute to thank these folks. Thank you to Joshua Garlock, Lord Corion, Ricky Maru, Mobius, Kevin Reynolds, Doomsword Deathmaster, Mark Simpson, Damien for his timely castle construction and siege questions, James F. Keck, William Smith, the Dungeon Minister, Manny Wall of both Ice, Iron, and Stone, Mark Corey, Kevin Wood, Todd Very Sharp, Carnivore Farmer, Rob Can't See That'll Get Demonetized, Ulysses, Jeremy Rule, Boganora, Mikey Make, and Sky Hernstrom. That's right, Sky Hernstrom. I thank you. I salute you. And if you're new here, if you just come here, what'd you think? Leave a comment down below. Just pop off. Because you know what? I don't, unless you're spamming, I don't delete comments. I don't complain. If you didn't like it and you leave a thumbs down, I understand. I'm not perfect. I'm only human. Chris says, I want you to wrestle Steve Marsh until he agrees to produce a D&D companion set. No. You show up on the show and you challenge him. Pay for view? No. I'm never putting this show behind a paywall. That's that. If you're like, I don't even have a YouTube subscription, I just log into YouTube and search you out every night until I find your show. Okay. Thank you, GR. It was fun to meet. I think this is the first time. I don't know if you've been a lurker, if you just knew coming here, but thank you very much. Had fun with a rock talk earlier. The concert tickets. We'll do a casual thing. I think we'll accede to John David's request and maybe have just like a musical night one of these nights. You know, like on a Thursday when I don't have a guest. First time. Thank you. Yeah, Lord Corion. Yeah, the Discord. If you're not on the Discord, let me see here. Let me get you the Discord link. Edit invite link, because I don't want it to expire in 7 days. Never expire. Generate a new link. Copy the link. Paste the link. Join us over on Discord. I'll put that up on screen till I'm done running my mouth. But you can join us over on Discord. You really can. It's fun to talk over on Discord. Oh, Tonka Todd, that is decent. That is decent. Had to be away from the computer for a spell. So we're wrapping up, Luther. But listen, we're going to come back tomorrow. I'm going to have this bad boy scanned in, and we're going to look at some stuff in Descent. I promise. Not indecent. That I don't promise. Thank you, Tonka Todd. That means something, brother. That means something. Let me tell you, it has been such a thrill ride getting to and over 1,000 subs on this channel. I looked today when I saw it, like had from Friday to today, like 16 new people joined up. It was so nice. It was just nice. It was really nice. Thank you guys. Yes, Luther, I think it would behoove us to continue to the Demon Webs and discuss its peculiarities in this whole thing. And I will say this. First of all, a couple of things. Yeah, we were up to 21, Jack. Dungeon Minister, if you're not subscribed to the Dungeon Minister channel, look out for the Dungeon Minister on YouTube. Go subscribe to his channel. If you subscribe to my channel, go subscribe to his channel also. Please do that. Please go watch the Dungeon Minister shows on YouTube. They are awesome. They are much shorter than this. He doesn't do like 2 and 3 and 4 hour live streams where he doesn't shut up. He does these very cool videos, and he has a marble statue. I just have like Darth Vader over here. He's got a marble bust of a saint. So yes, please go do that, because I like Dungeon Minister a lot, and his channel is awesome. And let's get him over 1,000 subs. Get the Dungeon Minister so he can start staring at 3 monitors of monetization. Let's get him over 1,000 subs. All hail Saint Beckme. That's right. Now with that, I used to do these streams, and it's like when I would see like viewership just dropping off, and it's like, okay, there's like 3 people watching now. Might as well wrap up. Now there's 20 people. I could go till 11 o'clock, but I can't, because in a half an hour and 20 minutes, I've got a first edition AD&D game to get to. So I'm going to go prep for that. I mean, I'm prepped for it, but mentally, get a bottle of water and a couple cold beers to set by the computer and go do that. So thank you all. Thank you, everybody, regardless of how you're here. I love you all. And I mean that. I don't just mean that like, oh, I love you. No, I do. I really appreciate it. You guys help me do cool things. Have a great evening. And I will be back tomorrow, and I hope you will too. Peace, everyone.